All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. And we need to continue our debates on the budget, and I guess we're leaving that $39,000 in. That one's, we're there at that point for now. But I guess, is there any other budget items that we want to discuss at this point in time to give some guidance? There was one that I did want to bring up, but I wasn't sure if anybody else had anything else. I don't see anybody else. The other one that I wanted to bring up was there was, I believe, $20,000 for a review of our pay grid. I guess I'm sitting here thinking about whether we should do a motion first, or whether we should just discuss it and make a motion. That's where we're sort of at with these budget discussions, right? Everybody's all right with that? Okay, so the issue was that $20,000. In my mind, I would rather not spend the money to do that. I would rather put that towards our infrastructure or give it to our staff as opposed to doing the pay grid adjustment. We did one 8 years ago, and we put ourselves in the sort of the middle of the pack at that time. We did that one, and the only I don't see a lot of need for $20,000 to do that again, is my opinion. But I'll throw it open to others to see what they think of that need or lack of need.
I agree with you.
Oh, okay. Anyone else on that one?
At this point in time where we are financially, I don't think it's prudent to do that.
Okay, that's two.
So Councillor Naka was in favor of what Mr. Mayor said?
Yes.
Yes, okay, I would not second or third that.
All right. Yeah, we might get a vote where we could get something.
And I'm the same, and that's all we can say.
Okay, and Councillor Stenhouse?
I am lost in where the conversation is.
Okay.
I'm of the favor to remove that 20,000 from budget line.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to, well, hearing all of that, I'll make the motion to remove the pay grid, what was the review?
Compensation
Pay grid
review.
review from the budget. All in favor? It is carried. Yeah, okay, we can leave it at that. And now I guess the next, and Rod, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd like to, the big question I think that we need to answer is, what do we want to see as a tax increase for the 2022 year? To me, that's the big question, like and we've talked about the issue already, is that the operating budget, we could have a 0% increase at this point in time in operating costs because of some of the one-time expenses that we had last year, and we could balance the operating budget again this year. However, there isn't much money going into reserves, and the big question is, how long can we push off that maintenance? How much do we want to increase rates at this current year, knowing that times are tough, right? Like, that's really the big question. Administration has recommended 5%, and they've only recommended 5% because it's maybe politically more palatable. They know we would need 20% increase or more to try to catch up with our aging infrastructure and that infrastructure debt. There isn't any, I mean, we can't go to 20% or 25, although that's really where we need to go to make it balance, and correct me if I'm wrong, administration, but that's certainly the sense that I'm getting, because we know 1% isn't that much. 1% doesn't even, you know, at 30,000, even doing one road is $1 million, or one lift station. That's a lot of percentages just to do one project. So the big question is, what do we want to do for next year? What do we want to have as an increase? So I'm gonna throw it open and see where people are at.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
of our CEO or account? What is the average taxpayer pay? What's the average?
Chief, I had this number on top of my head.
Pardon me?
So I think if it went to 5%, it was gonna equate to, oh gee, I have to go back to the whole report. Rita, can you remember?
Well, it's average taxpayer,
Yeah,
you're looking at, say, a household that's got an assessed value of $200,000.
right.
If you look back at, I think we had that in the actual RFD. Was it this one or the first one? I think it's the
First
first one.
Was the first one? Or?
Yeah. Let me just take a look, hang on.
I should know this.
If I remember correctly, it's $10 a month or $2 a month, something like that.
Yeah, it was
24, equates to $24 annually, $2 per month. It's on page 5 of the December 20th budget document. Do you have that?
Yeah,
Okay, so on the second last paragraph,
okay, yes.
a 1% tax increase equates to $24 annually,
Okay,
$2 a month. So if you're going up 5, then it's $10 a month.
yeah.
$240
based on
a
average-
year.
Based on average income.
Yeah.
All right,
Well, that was $250,000 assessed value of the
Yeah.
house.
And
I
that's
mean,
probably,
there is no total average there that we have, but it's in the
okay,
ballpark.
yeah. Okay, thank you. I actually did highlight it, so, sorry.
It's okay?
all right, so where are people at on the bigger question? Councillor Danaca.
Well, it's really difficult to, oh man. It's really difficult to, in regards to taxes, we've raised the utility rates, we've raised the electrical rates, because we raised the ATCO
Franchise.
fee. So we've raised those, now and I understand where it's getting to the point where, pardon my language, but this shit is starting to hit the fan. I mean, when it was cold, you're minus whatever's, I mean, we've deferred so much maintenance. I mean, I came into the office, they were wearing toques and skidoo suits. Like, I mean, it was 16 degrees in here, because we've deferred maintenance on the boiler. We can't keep deferring and deferring and deferring before we're gonna end up with no money to do anything. And on the other side, I'm looking at, we raise taxes and then we're going to tax these people to the point where they're gonna move either to the county or completely out of the area because the taxes are too high. So I'm trying to find a balance here and I'm struggling, I'm really struggling. I understand the need to try and get something so we can have something. But it's hard to get something out of people who are struggling, and then I look at the population of our town, and our population is a lot of low-income retired people. That's just the makeup of our citizenry, on fixed incomes. And I mean, when you say, you know, like $10 a month, I mean, is only $120 a year, but everything else is going up on top of that. It's hard for people to, yes, people know that taxes come every year and you have to put money away, et cetera, but that's not that easy when people are struggling just for the basic necessities of housing, groceries and stuff. So it's a really tough decision. And honestly, like, some nights when I'm looking through the budget and stuff, like, I mean, there are nights that I've lost sleep over this, because it's in my head constantly going, I know we need money to do stuff and people want services, and it's hard to get services when we don't, as Councillor Steno said, if we don't have a grader to plow the roads, if we don't have a vac truck to do what it needs to do, or other equipment that we need to supply the services that our citizens expect. But, like, holy moly, I mean, I know, like, they're asking for 5%, but I'm really struggling. Like, honestly, I'm really struggling on that. And sometimes I really, I don't want to use that word, but there are times that, and this is one of those times that I hate the position that I'm in, because I know what needs to be done. I know where our citizens are at, and I'm trying my hardest to find a balance that I can live with. And it's a big struggle for me, and I don't know, I haven't made up my mind on where I'm going yet.
You're in between the proverbial rock and the hard spot, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I get it, yeah. But you know, the good thing, Donna, is we got the new counselors on our council now that are gonna be able to solve this issue for us. They're gonna shed some light on it, and they're gonna tell us how it should work. So I'll throw it to one of them to let us know how we get out of this.
Unfortunately, it is going to be a community that comes together and you know, at 5%, that is $10 a month more. And it really doesn't give us, like, when you look at that, that's what, maybe $150,000 going into our reserves extra, but it's a start, right? And so, that's where I'm at. I mean, you guys have taken a stand around, we need to make cuts, and that's, you know, I think in the same token, we have to take a stand and say we do need to be putting money away for our aging infrastructure and all the stuff that is going to come down the road. And it would be awesome to be able to say, you know what, we don't need to increase our taxes. However, we're not in that place. And so However, I also am aware of where we are economically, and I would not like us to raise it to a place that is going to be detrimental to people's financial situation. But I believe 5%, like, for an average income home, that's $10 a month, right? I think it's doable. So, do you want me to make a motion? Or
Let's
do
just
further discussion?
Yeah, let's have the discussion and we'll see where people are at and then
Okay.
we can go from there. I'll throw it open to other, okay, Judy?
So fortunately, I was able to catch some of what Donna had to say, and I totally agree with her. The price of everything is going up, plus you have to realize that people are traveling for medical appointments, and they're traveling out of town, so the best we can do is make High Prairie affordable. I would suggest a 4% increase if we get rid of the 39,000 donation fund. If not, you're gonna have to go up to 5%. We know we have to. But I'd like a 4% increase, with the exception that we get rid of the 39,000 donation fund, and that can help supplement the tax increase.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Martins?
I have nothing novel to say that Councillor Tanaka hasn't stated, Councillor Stenhouse hasn't stated. I hear Councillor Dan, I know it sounds like $10, but this is on top of electricity, gas, water, sewer, cost of food, even though the cost of food is not something we have put on our ratepayers, the cost of gasoline and so forth. So that lady was in tears saying she has to figure out which bill to pay, feeding a family, utilities, water, heat, I don't know, and I think that there was a gentleman behind her, Peter, that was there to support her, and I think that that's just the two courageous souls that made it in this evening. I think they echo the sentiments of 90%. And, Mr. Mayor, you talked about the quality of life. I just put it down in my notes. Well, it's in terms of cuts that in context of what you were saying, well, I'd like to have us think about the quality of life of our citizens here, right? And you're right, Councillor Tanaka, this is not something that is an easy decision to make. I would put a third caveat onto Councillor Stenhouse. She says 4% with the 39 going into reserves, and I would like to add that we have intermunicipal look at the funding back from Big Lakes County. And before she mentioned 4%, I was going to ask Rod and or you, Vita, what's the hypothetical if we do like 2.5%? Like, can we then get the boiler fixed? Can we even do high priority level 1 type stuff with the no? You're shaking your head, no? Okay, so it has to be something like 4%, okay?
Well,
I mean, realistically, and I'm gonna add to your question, I think we're looking at we're gonna be looking at using up what reserves we have, and we'll also be looking at maybe increasing how much loans we take out to get some of those high priority things done. There just isn't, I mean, I wish I knew of a better way of doing it. I don't like taking out loans, but the good news is the interest rates aren't that high, but it's still an interest rate that you have to pay, right? I'd rather pay cash for it, but we don't have that much. I mean, we can get by getting the top ones for another year or so, but it's all gonna come down at some point.
And I guess when we talk about quality of life, and we can look at the immediate right now, you can look at your food, you can look at all those things that you're talking about. However, if we do not address the infrastructure and do not address putting money away for all that stuff, your heating is not gonna matter because it's gonna be wrecked anyways. You won't have gas running properly, you won't have sewage running properly. You're gonna be constantly putting dollars into infrastructure that is gonna run our bills up even more. We need to start putting money away to deal with that stuff and so that we, 20 years from now, we don't have our children or grandchildren have to worry about all of that stuff. And 5% is a place to start. And like I said, it doesn't bring in a whole lot, but it's at least a step, right? And we can start somewhere. So.
Councillor Shushu.
I guess, I think that's probably wires up half the night in the head. I was, I think I had a pen in my hand also, and I'm calculating away, and I'm trying to look at options that are very few, for sure. It's, I kind of echo Councillor Tanaka. It's, yeah, I don't know if I have an answer. I just know it's very difficult, and I think we're really at a breaking point, for sure. And what people have to pay and put out, if we start asking for 5% on top of everything that's going on right now, especially it's always worse in the winter time, which makes it extremely difficult, but at any time, I think will be very difficult at 5%. Are there options to look at? I'd like to think that that we still haven't exhausted maybe everything that we could look at. You're saying intermunicipal. Yeah, I'd like to think maybe there's something there as well. I mean, we know it has to go up to a certain degree. Go up to a 5 or 7%. I don't know if that's good. Honestly, I'll just say that I really don't think that's going to work. I almost like the idea of the 4% and let's look at this seriously again. I think that's where we more probably have to be at. But I guess right now at this point, I don't have a definite answer to that. I really don't. It's big and complicated, and yeah, I think we've got to look at things very seriously.
Okay, I'll just add my 2 cents to it. I totally agree with what everybody's been saying. It's a rock and a hard spot, right? Nobody wants to increase rates. We've already increased some of the utility rates going forward. Like she said, oh yeah, it's, just the base amount is $15 a month for them, and then you add more onto it. It compounds for some of our residents, and yeah, it's not a good place to be. And I also know we've got equipment. We're driving around, it's embarrassing to see some of the equipment that we have driving around, and some of the things that are underneath the ground. I don't know what that really looks like, but I'm sure it's very old and needing repairs too, right? And we've got those lift stations that got to get repaired and stuff like that. And I don't have the options. I know we can increase taxes. We can't ever increase the taxes enough to catch up with that infrastructure deficit that we have. And I wish it was easy to say, well, if we raise it 5, we'll have enough money to keep everything going. That's not really the case. So, and I know COVID is the other thing that it's been ongoing for a long time, and I got my fingers crossed that that's going to come to an end here shortly, and that we can get back to doing things normally. I am not at this point in favor of 5%, although I know we need it. I know we need it desperately. I'd be more in the 4% range. It sounds better, but with the utility rates that we've put up, you know, it all is adding up to, I think, more than probably 5% when you add that in. So for me, it's a little bit less. Other options, like I've been thinking about, you know, like your comment is, what can we do for other options? And I think we've got to get back to getting the community involved in improving things and stuff. I think about the Sports Palace ice pad and the price doubling to try to get that in. Like I go, wow, you know, can we, it's just so high, and we can't get the grants to do those kinds of things, which, you know, hopefully we'll get those. But maybe we get the public to come together and do some of that work so that it doesn't cost so much. And, you know, is it council's job to try and get the public together? Maybe we can, you know, start to say, okay, people, do we want to have this? If so, we need to get people to come in and donate towards it. And that's only a small thing, but maybe some more of that. And we have a great community that'll chip in and help when asked. So there are some things that I think we could help do. But yeah, for me, I don't have all of the answers, but I just don't think this is the right time to increase by 5%. I mean, hopefully things would be better next year and we could maybe do another increase, but right now, I just couldn't support a 5% from my perspective. All right, oh, Councillor Stenhouse?
Because I only heard what you had to say, can you just recap what everybody said now?
Everybody is losing sleep over how to make this work and to balance it, because they know we need the money to work with the infrastructure deficit that we have. But they also recognize the needs of the community and the needs of the residents, and the increases are hitting them hard. I think, is that safe to say? I think that recaps it in a short
Well,
time.
no, I'm just wondering at what percentages people were coming in now.
I heard 5, I heard 4, I heard somebody else say less. I can't remember who said maybe less.
I think 4
Was the lowest? Oh, I thought somebody said 2.5 or 3 or.
I said 3 maybe.
Maybe it was, yeah.
I asked Rita and Rod what.
Oh,
what
maybe
their
that's,
option
yeah, you might have said so.
And I wanted the third thing to be added to her too, because I feel like, you know,
Well, we are definitely gonna go to the county. I mean, that's a given, there's no doubt. But I think, man, to think that we're gonna get that is pretty optimistic. I know they're in same kind of spot that we're at, right? So before we leave this, I'd actually like to hear maybe a little bit more from Rod and or Rita on their thoughts on this. Or did we miss anything, something that we need to add to this discussion?
No, I think council's got a really good handle on our financial situation, and it's, I like to say it's either you pay now or pay more later. I know, one of the things we've said is preventative maintenance does save you money. It's like 4 to 1. If you put some maintenance in, it reduces your overall costs, and just let things go a lot too long. So, I think from administration's perspective, putting this together is probably one of the toughest things I think we've ever had to do, because just seeing the reality of the forecast and what we have to fund here over the next 5 years is heart-wrenching. And no matter what we try to do, we're not gonna likely meet some of the wants and the needs of some of our citizens. So it's a tough situation to be in. So I think moving in the right direction is all that we can do at this stage, and continue to look at every opportunity as far as grants, maybe some volunteer efforts. We've got some other things that we're gonna be looking to the community for as far as the cemeteries, and, you know, if we all band together, some of these things we'll be able to check off and hopefully, at the end of the day, provide the quality of life that Hyperions want and deserve.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going 1%, so there's between 4 and 5%. That's a cup of coffee a month. What, you know, for the, so that you can start to build for the future. I'm not 100% seeing the reasoning behind that. And if we, you know, if we talk to our citizens and ask them, you know, if we can start to improve our underground infrastructure and to ensure that it's there for, you know, years to come, and we can improve the stuff that we have. I'm just, anyways, that's my thought. I still think we need to start at 5%, but hearing where everybody else is at, but I'm just pointing out, that's a cup of coffee a month, that's all.
Okay, so Rod, I guess do you need a motion to say what that percentage should be so that you could figure out sort of an operating budget at this point?
So that's why Rita has that machine right there. And so, depending on what council does, having a motion as far as, if you tell us roughly the percentage, we'll backfill the numbers into the motion.
Gotcha, okay. And that was the motion that we started with, we could adjust that and tweak it?
Yes, so I think we've got at least one, maybe two scenarios now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we got the 5% with the 20,000 included, and I think the 4%. Because we got all the numbers,
All right,
so the
yeah.
motion's ready to go for either one of those two. If you do a different motion, Rita needs a few more minutes.
So Rod, just help me to understand, we have an interim operating budget. This is going to be another interim operating budget that's gonna replace the old interim operating budget. But we still have the final decisions, and we could, tweak it in April before we put out the tax notices, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Councillor Stenhouse?
So just to remind everyone that administration has put in hours and hours and research into what our expenses are, what we need, where we're lacking. They need an answer tonight. We know it has to be 5%. We know it has to be 5% to continue the way we are. Again, there are some places where we can cut that we have control over. I know some people don't think $39,000 is very much, but it's a lot of money to me. But we know that we can't go lower than 5. So by postponing this and making administration spend more hours, they're still going to come up with the same figures because they've already done this. They've been working on it since the fall. And now, no. We have to make a decision. Sending them back to come up with more figures, they can't. They've cut everything they can. They've researched everything. We have to make this decision tonight.
Okay, thank you. And I think we are gonna be making a decision tonight, it's just what's that number going to be, and that's the debate that we've been having. And again, I think we can, if we had to, we can change again, and I wanna echo, what Councillor Stenhouse said, and thank administration for putting together a very good budget package that paints the picture that we can see. It's become very clear, probably clearer than we've ever seen the the budget before in the past, so, you know, thank you, Rod and Rita, for the time that you've put into it. I don't like the picture, but you did a very good job painting it, so thank you for that. Okay, so we're at the point now, I think, like, we do need to make a decision, we need to move on, we've got other agenda items. So, does anybody want to make a motion on this one?
I will make the motion that we approve a 5% increase on taxes, and that we consider lowering our, what is it called? Sponsorship package, so that we are being fiscally responsible. What did you say? Yeah, to look at lowering the sponsorship package to $10,000.
No, you know what,
Oh, we
well,
can't
okay,
do
you
that
can
on
make,
budget?
you can, but you're making two motions again.
Okay.
It-
Let's just do the one.
Yeah,
And-
that's, because some people might support part of it, not the other, and
Okay.
I think that'll end up with problems from
Okay, based on the recommendation of our administration, I am making a motion that we increase the tax by 5%.
Okay. Did you hear the motion, Judy? Okay, sorry. The motion was to increase the taxes by 5%. Okay? Oh,
So basically what that would do is the option number one would look the same. Your operating revenues would not change. Your operating expense would now become $9,846,942, because you're taking the $20,000 that you've now removed from operating expense, and you're putting it into the capital reserve.
Right.
So the other number that's gonna change is your capital reserve for unrestricted will now become $397,245. And the other ones would remain the same. Okay, is that acceptable to make that friendly amendment to your motion, Councillor Dunn?
so I got lost on what numbers you were talking about, where you were at, just so I
Okay,
can.
so if you're looking at option number one,
Okay, and you are on page
34,
Okay,
correct?
Page 34.
That council amend the 2022 operating budget and approve the revised budget. So the operating revenues are at the 5% taxes.
Okay.
The operating expense, because you've removed the 20,000, it now drops to 9,846,942. Your principal on long-term debt does not change. Your capital reserve for restricted does not change. But your capital reserve for unrestricted will now increase by 20,000 to 397,245. And your operating expense, your operating expense from operating reserves does not change either. Okay?
Okay,
If Councillor Dunn is okay with amending his
Yeah.
motion to that?
I will make that amendment, thank you.
so just going back to that, the fund operating expenses from the operating reserve of 65,000. Can you explain that to me? I just want to make sure I'm clear.
So there were certain items in the budget that were referred to as committed to in 2021 in the operating expense. And so we're just basically carrying them forward into 2022 as an expense, but it's funded from the previous year. So it's just basically a carry forward.
Okay,
And I can identify those if you want, but they were discussed when we reviewed the budget. I don't know if you remember. which items they were, but
Yeah, and it would be like the golf club, 15,000,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
yeah, that was increased to that, yeah.
Okay, any other questions before we vote on the motion?
Can we do the motion one more time?
Well, okay, the motion, if I can clarify it, is that it would be on page 34,
It's option 1.
option 1, which includes a 5% increase, basically, which would be going into reserves. That's the motion.
Okay.
And with the 20,000 adjustment for the one thing that we made today.
That's right.
Any other questions? All right. All in favor? 1, 2, all right, opposed? I didn't see your vote.
I know, because I don't know. Those that are opposed, what do you want to see instead, I guess is my question. Like, there's 3 oppositions or 2, what's the second opposing? Just if I understood that I would know which one to support. So,
Well, you either support that motion or you don't, and then we'd have to find another one, and I don't know what the other one is. But
Well, she has the numbers
Yeah.
for
So
the
that's my question, right? When you're saying opposing, are you saying it because you want 4%? Is it those 2? Because right now, the opposition, I don't know, is it 4% that you're holding?
Yeah.
So Donna, for example, you're in opposition, is it because you want to see 4%? Just so I'm clear, if that's, okay, so just why, is that why you're opposed as well?
Yeah,
Yes, I want to see a different number, even though I realize what we need.
okay, but we need your vote on that one. So I'm gonna bring it back to a vote, just to make sure we're clear. All of those in favor? 1, 2, 3. All of those opposed? Okay, so that motion is defeated. Anybody else want to make a motion on this? Councillor Danaka?
I'm gonna steal from Councillor Stenhouse, that I make a motion that but we've already, we all know that's not gonna work, because we've already approved the 39,000, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, never mind, that's not gonna work.
I'll make a motion that we approve the operating, or the 2022 operating budget with a 4% rate, overall 4% rate increase, and the appropriate numbers that would follow from that, right? Like, because we know that's gonna, it's gonna change some, but not others in there. Do people understand the motion?
So what is the number for the operating budget then?
The revenues would become $11,290,329, which is a decrease of $37,817. Operating expenses would remain the same as the previous, and the capital reserves would be the other item that would drop to $359,428. So basically, almost $40,000 difference, $37,800.
And I think the other thing that, I mean, we always put some money away in reserves already, so we are putting a bit more, and maybe there'll be some other little areas where we can save, but that's why I'm making that one as opposed to bringing it up more. Okay, other questions on that motion?
So just a question then, or just clarification, I guess, which I probably already know, is, so it was 2%, it was a 2% increase last year, correct? So at 4%, we would be basically doubling last year?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions before we vote? All in favor?
I
Oh,
can't do
sorry,
the
sorry,
motion.
Judy. Missed you, sorry. I didn't see you at first and then I turned away and then your hand.
Okay, so I kind of get what you're saying, but why don't you just say 4% increase? I don't get this as the numbers change and follow or whatever. Why not just a flat 4%?
Well, the administration wants, and you've got the package in front of you, have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see those numbers, like operating revenues have to drop by 38,000, and corresponding, those numbers change, and they want those numbers in the motion to make the motion very clear for them. So
Okay.
I didn't do all of the number crunching because I know that Rita will crunch the numbers based on 4%. So I didn't get all of the changes at 4%. Basically, it's reducing the revenues by $38,000. That's not gonna go into reserves. Everything else is basically the same.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Anybody else with questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, opposed? We got two. Did you vote?
I did not vote.
You have to vote.
Yeah, I
Huh?
will.
Everybody has to vote. That's one of the requirements of being a counselor, is you cannot just not vote.
Abstain.
You cannot abstain, yeah.
I needed more time to think.
Yeah, that was mine too.
So, yeah, go ahead and call again.
What's that?
Go ahead and call again if
Okay.
you want.
All of those in favor? Sorry, did you? No, we didn't have a count on everybody that voted, so we're re-voting, just to be clear. Okay,
We're re-voting on a 4% increase.
correct. All in favor?
Can we have a recorded vote?
Yes, we can have a recorded vote, but you should do that before
Yeah, I
we
know.
vote.
Yeah, I know. Okay, forget it then.
Okay.
It's kind of fast, okay.
Okay. All of those in favor? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1, 2. That motion passes. This has been a tough meeting.
Sorry, am I allowed to ask for clarification? I thought that that's what you wanted. I mean, you voted against 4% because I thought that's where you wanted to go.
Well, I would have done 4% and the removal of the 39,000. That was gonna be my vote, my original motion after the one was defeated, but because it's already in the budget,
Yeah.
we can't, yeah.
We still have a chance to, so you were basically saying you wanted it at 3%.
Yeah, basically.
And we can still go there with the final budget, if that's where people really want to go. Okay, but we do need to move on. That was
Painful.
Painful.
painful. We love the budget discussions, yes. So moving on to item 6.3, the reserve strategy. Counselor Stenhouse?
I'd like to make the motion that council adopt the reserve strategy and approve the reserve as per Canada Reserve Schedule A.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this? Nothing? Okay. Anything I see, did you want to add anything to that, Rita? No? Okay.
If you're in favor of it, then there's no need for it.
All right, all in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Moving on then to our CAO's report. Get a motion on it first. Okay,
I move the council receive the CAO Rockies Limited report and action on this information
All right,
and discussion.
yes, now we're open for discussion. Go ahead, you had a question you had said. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Rod?
Go ahead, Rod.
Oh, so, it's basically just an overview. I know something that was asked at the last meeting that I'll highlight here with regards to the museum, and we still, the museum believes they'll hear in May or June, but hopefully we'll hear a little bit earlier with regards to the potential success in the grant. And I think the other thing that's happening is, the crews are just working extremely hard. It's raining, snowing, and I think they've done considering the weather, I know we're getting a lot of calls from ratepayers with regards to water and snow and ice. I don't think since I've been here we've received as many calls as we have in this past week with regards to that, but the crews are working as hard as they possibly can, and I know there was a bunch of massive puddles out there, and they have the steamer out there to get rid of a lot of the big ones, but this is a really unusual year, and I think they've been working extremely hard. Yeah, even and in the internal staff, we're preparing for the audit. We're obviously down a couple, so we're really nervous with regards to a lot of the illness that's going on out there, and so we've increased our protective measures inside to hopefully meet, I guess, some of our obligations on the financial side, just some of our operational work, and still trying to balance meeting customers' expectations with trying to get people to work from home to stay safe. So I know it's a really balancing act, and people are getting really tired of COVID and what it's doing, and so I know tempers are flaring up a little bit, and so I just want people to know that we hear them, and that we need to ensure that our staff are safe, and we need to ensure that we're able to meet certain deadlines, or unfortunately costs go up on our audit side. So a long spiel, but I think the staff have been doing a great job considering these times, and I'm just looking also for a little bit of compassion on the people's side, so that we can continue to deliver the services that they rely on every single day. That concludes my update.
Okay, thank you for that, and I know Councillor Martin's had questions for you.
Really, Rod, it's to just ask if you could speak to, were there any implications to any of the staff from our last meeting with regards to COLA, how's morale, was there anything there?
Yeah, we did, each of the managers informed their teams. No, it wasn't a good day. To be honest, there was a lot of disappointment. I think management tried to do their best, tried to keep the morale up, but I'm not going to, sit here and try to sugarcoat it. It was, I think, a pretty depressing day for a lot of the staff. Following that, we did receive a resignation, and the individual did state that that was, but what was the reason why they did hand in their resignation? They were holding off to see what that decision was. I think that was what they said. So, we'll march on and continue to try to do the best that we can, and I know it's going to be a while to perk people up, but we'll do our best to try to bring that morale up. But it was a tough blow.
Go ahead.
Sorry, the person that resigned, were they not eligible for any sort of merit or step increases, or they reached their threshold?
Nope, they were an individual that had additional steps that they could achieve, so which in our process is on an annual, that's part of the annual review. If they meet their their expectations, they get a step increase. And so this individual still had multiple steps that they could go through.
Okay, any other questions for Rod at this time? All right, seeing none, we had a motion to receive for information, all in favor? Carried. And moving on then to our written and verbal reports. We'll start with, I see Councillor Stenhouse with her hand up.
I would like to make a motion that council receive agenda items 14.1 and 14.2 for information.
We did that already.
Okay, thanks for that, but we've, at the start, we identified those as ones that we weren't gonna debate, so they were already received. Thanks. Okay, Councillor Danaka.
Okay, the first meeting I had was kind of discussed at the last council meeting, in regards to ESSO. Mayor Panasic and myself attended that, just to refresh everybody's memories. Basically, ESSO is really not entertaining any immediate reclamation of that site. There was some talk of the initial plans that we had with the park, etc., and ESSO did not realize or was misinformed that we had sort of changed our plans. Basically, we discussed their donation, if they would be basically rent it to us for $1. They are, I think it was Robin, refresh my memory, Mayor Panasic, that, or Catherine, one of them was going to try and get up here this summer to go over the site with council for where those site test holes are, so we knew how many and where they were located on that site. So basically, sort of we're back to square one on that. Basically they won't put anything towards that site in terms of like sod or any of that. That would be the town's responsibility. The second one that I attended via Zoom was the Alberta Muni pre-Price Waterhouse leasing report. That there's a number, they sent us an email, there's multiple sessions to attend regarding municipalities' input. On this one, there was probably, I think, 384 people who attended via the Zoom. They have no answers. They, based on what the government is talking about, they're in, like increasing bodies from 3,100 to 3,200. There's so many things that need to be looked at that were brought forward from people who attended. If they go with the Alberta Police Force, what about infrastructure? What about the buildings that are there now? Who owns that? Cost, because, basically the big one is that, if they go through with the Alberta Police Force, they'll basically lose the government funding of $180 million from the feds. Nobody knows how this is going to be structured. Nobody has any idea in terms of the actual cost to municipalities, there was basically so many unanswered questions, it was almost like, what's the point of having this discussion? Because they had no answers for any questions brought forward in terms of governance, service levels, fairness to communities, predictability, the retro pay that we've been discussing, like they had no answers. But I did notice that we received an email, and I think I might have missed that one. There was a Zoom, I think with the RCMP discussing.
Multiple opportunities to attend, sorry, there's multiple opportunities.
Yeah, there's multiple opportunities to attend that one, either in person or via Zoom. So, basically I moved my verbal report for information.
Okay, any questions for Councillor Danaka? All right, we'll move on then to, oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, we should vote, sorry. All in favor? Sorry, thank you for that. Councillor Dunn?
I have attended no meetings, so I move to just,
If you have no report, now we don't have to vote.
thank you.
All right. Councillor Martins?
So I attended, in addition to the things that we've attended jointly, I attended 3 committee-related meetings. 2 of them were related. One was the one that I told you guys at the last meeting. It's that public engagement. They really, Alberta Environment and Management went through stuff that basically had already set in motion, and the public fisheries made some decisions, and they just relayed that. Some of it was depleting walleye populations, how would what the implications would be for sport fishing. There's a whole list, so if anyone's interested, I didn't memorize all of that, but I have notes. The one of interest was, so there were 2, by the way, Lester Slade also did a new director's orientation, which for me, that was awesome and very helpful. Megan there is amazing. And then thirdly, it was the airport committee, and I won't speak to the Minister Grubish because I certainly have a feeling. I called Rod, in fact, right after, but your phone went right into voicemail, so I wasn't able to reach you. I thought maybe the 2 of you were talking, but that disappointed me. But I won't go there. I'll let you give your comments. The airport committee, while it doesn't affect us because High Prairie only deals with splits operating costs, there are implications, and I want this council to know that. There is an item that's it's very incipient. It's just new. It's just scratching the surface. But they're looking at a whole point of sale replacement. Big cost, big ticket item, lots of unanswered questions, and the thing that got me was that it was only replaced, as an enterprise level system, was only replaced in 2015, 7 years new in my mind. They're looking to replace it to the tune of 41, but don't quote us on that because that's not a final, 41,000 isn't the final answer. But just to be aware, even though we don't bear capital costs, there are implications for us with operating. And I know Councillor Shishin was also part of that meeting, so she may have additional thoughts. But those were my 3, in addition to the one with Minister Grubish on water. I move to accept my report for information, please.
Councillor Dunn? Oh, you were voting already, or did you have a question? I'll go for questions first and then vote second. All right, no questions, all in favor? It is carried. Over to myself, I'll just say we had Heart River Housing had a meeting. Just the highlights from that was the Pleasant View Lodge construction is proceeding. It's moving ahead and it's on schedule, which is all good. There's still a few issues that Heart River Housing is fighting with the contractor on, but they're gradually getting some of those worked out. We talked a little bit that there's the Fox Creek project that they're hoping to go ahead with. They've went ahead and re-tendered it. They got an extension from CMHC on their $2 million grant for it, so they were able to re-tender it. That should be closing fairly quickly and see if they can get the price, better price. The province actually is, you know, they were fairly happy with the provincial funding for 2022 that they get from the province. Remained the same for most of their budget items, but one or two areas actually increased up slightly, like the LAF grant was based on their 2020 occupancy rates, which should help them. Because of COVID, and the argument is not as many people are moving into the facilities, therefore the occupancy rates are slightly down, and that would mean less payment for them, but the government's allowing them to go at their 2020 levels, which was good. I also participated in that policing discussion. And again, like I say, there wasn't a lot of information. It was Alberta municipalities. They're going to be sending out a list of questions to each of the councils so that they can, when they go to these other meetings, because there's going to be meetings both with the call it the RCMP union, and then with the province who's promoting. So we got the pros and the con meeting, and they're giving questions that you can take to these meetings and ask. And I think, like I said, the first one on the RCMP one is, I think, tomorrow online. But there are several that you can attend. Minister Glubish meeting. Yes, you're absolutely right. I was not real happy coming out of that. I didn't get a good feeling coming out of it. He didn't say anything really negative, but he certainly didn't give any hints that we were going to be successful at the grant. I was looking for some kind of hint that it was good, and I know I talked with Rod about it, and hearing Sasha's impressions too, it sounds like, yeah, nobody came away with a feeling that we were going to get the grant, and if they did, they really seem to be pushing wireless versus fiber. So anyways, we'll see where that comes out, but yeah, not a good feeling with that one. Did the presentation to the food bank for the $3,700 donation that we make for the land rental that we have. We had the meeting with Imperial Oil to discuss the site, which we've talked about. And also wanted to mention that we've been working with that doctor, and he did find a house, and is going to be starting here on the 31st. So that's a good thing. So, yeah, so he was quite happy and got the approvals that he needed and found a place to rent for now, and so it's all good. Any questions on my report before I move it? Councillor Danaka?
And then Judy.
Yeah, okay, I saw.
So this doctor that's coming, is he at the Associate Clinic or Laughlin's Clinic?
Is at the High Prairie or the hospital.
Okay.
Yeah. Councillor Stenhouse?
So is he cashing in on the free rental?
I believe he is, yeah. Anything else? Seeing none, I move my report for information. All in favor? It's carried. Councillor Stenhouse? No report? Okay. And Councillor Yashishin?
Yeah, I've had, I only had, I should say, besides our January 15th meeting, I had the one meeting, which was the High Prairie Airport Advisory Committee, with Sasha there. Yeah, the main topic that was mentioned was the POS system, so the fueling station system. Quite a bit of talk on that. Actually, majority of the meeting was that, and I think the biggest thing on that was, you know, they had a quote of 41,000, but there seemed to me like there was a lot of information missing. So that was one of the things that was talked about was, okay, fine to take it forward with the idea being that there's a lot more information that has to come forward. So that should be coming back, if I've got that right, their session to the advisory, or airport advisory committee. So there should be more information to come with that, so. Otherwise, I was at Minister Glubish's meeting as well. Yeah, I kind of, what I had here was, I had good and bad. I think really good for the fact that I think we really got it out there, Mayor, yourself, especially got that out there and in a very positive and enthusiastic way, really supportive of the community and the idea being that it would be good for, excellent for the town here. But of course, the bad was, yeah, it not left with a good impression at all, and with the idea being that, yeah, not too positive that that was gonna go forward. With not even, like you mentioned, not even a hint of just nothing. There was like the hook was there, but there was nothing on the other end. So, yeah, like you said, I guess that's yet to be seen. And I move unless there's any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none,
I move my report for information.
all in favor? Carried. All right, we do have a couple of items in closed session, so we'll take a 10-minute break and then we'll move into a closed session. So I see Rod busy on there, close it.